On this episode of Internet Business Mastery, we speak with the expert on experts, Stephanie Chandler, author of Own Your Niche. And in the quick tip, we reveal how to use the comment form on your blog to automatically build your email list.
Welcome to InternetBusinessMastery.com, where you will learn to take control, make more money, and start an internet business today. Here are your hosts, Sterling and Jay.
Hey everyone, I'm Sterling.
And I'm Jay. Thanks for joining us. We hope you're doing well. We're here on a mission to help you start your own internet business. If you'd like to get started today, you can go to freevideogift.com and check out a video that will teach you the right way to start your very own online business. So Sterling, what's on your mind today?
Well, actually, I'm just excited to get to this interview with Stephanie. The idea of being an expert on experts intrigues me, which is, part of why we obviously decided to do this interview. And I'm just wondering, where, her theory on this and our theory on this go together, and, possibly if there's anything else we can learn to help our people in the academy as well. I'm excited to see what she has to say.
Absolutely. It's fun to talk to, outside experts like this. And it was as simple as her emailing us and going, hey, I've got this message about, owning your niche, becoming an expert. And, very quickly and succinctly, she made a case for the benefit that it would have to our audience. And after checking into her a bit, I emailed her and said, great, let's set up a time to chat. So I guess that's just to say, yeah, we're definitely open to these kinds of interviews, especially when people make it very easy for us to consider whether or not it's a good fit for our audience, and then make it easy for us to contact them. So if you're listening to this and you feel like you have a message of value to bring to our audience, then just email us to our support desk. Give us, again, succinctly case for why you'd be a good fit for our audience so we can check into that. I mean, we do try to be, we are very selective about who we bring on the show, but, if you've got something that's the right fit, we're always open to it. Or if you know of somebody that you think we ought to interview, by all means, feel free to contact us. But with that, let's go ahead and jump into this episode, the interview with Stephanie Chandler.
And now, the features segment.
All right, so in this call, we're joined by Stephanie Chandler, who is the author of several books, including her latest, which is called Own Your Niche. The subtitle is Hype-Free Internet Marketing Tactics to Establish Authority in Your Field and Promote Your Service-Based Business. And I suppose that would work just as well for product-based business as well. And she has a number of other books and ebooks, too, for information marketers. And her website is authoritypublishing.com. She's a frequent speaker at business events and on the radio. She's been featured in Entrepreneur Business Week and Wired Magazine, and is a blogger for Forbes. So thank you very much, Stephanie, for giving us some time to chat today about owning your niche and how to become an expert.
Yeah, thanks, Jay. It's great to be here.
Well, I've got a first question for you.
Yes, sir.
And that is simply, is it niche, niche? Everybody always tries to correct us. We just say niche because this is the part of the U.S. we're from, and I guess that's how we say it here. But if you've got a book with that in the title, help us. What's the final way to say this thing?
Well, I'm with you. I go with niche. I'm from California. That's how we say it. But
okay.
It all works for me. It's all good.
Okay, great.
Awesome.
We like to start off with the hard-hitting question.
We're putting your feet to the fire first and seeing how you do with the hard question. So this idea of becoming an expert, owning your niche, and it's something that we definitely approach in our own system of teaching internet business and encouraging people to think of themselves as kind of a go-to source, being seen by their audience as somebody of value that becomes the person to go to for a particular topic. In your experience in working with entrepreneurs and information marketers, why is it important to understand and consider this concept of becoming an expert?
Well, I think that it makes everything you do in your business so much easier if you are known as the authority in your field. I have a good friend. He's an author. He teaches IT consultants how to run their businesses. His name's Carl Polachek, and it's quite an incredible niche. And so what he's done is carved out this position of authority in that field. He writes books on this subject. He hosts podcasts. He does webinars. He does events. And therefore, he is a go-to resource for his audience. And he sells, thousands and thousands of dollars worth of product every year.
So what is it about being an expert that leads to more sales or leads to more speaking or leads to authoring opportunities?
I think it's the expertise piece of it helps people believe in your credibility. You've written for some maybe major publications, or you've authored a book, or you host a radio show on a certain topic. These are things that demonstrate that you are an authority in your field. And I'll tell you something else I believe that might be a little bit different than what others believe. But I believe that, there's always room in any field for another authority. If you look at any category, there are multiple authorities. In the media, you can always see chefs, for example, Rachel Ray and Paula Deen and all the different chefs that are out there, Curtis Stone. They all have kind of their own unique perspective, which is how they carve out their niche. And therefore, when they come in with their new, healthy cooking for kids, that stands out against Rachel Ray's quick and easy cooking or Paula Deen's butter-filled home cooking,
Right.
And to me, that's how you can really differentiate yourself, carve out your niche, and then people will seek your advice or your resources or your products.
So the fact of having plenty of room in a market is a factor of both. There's all kinds of individual little types of audiences, as well as nobody's going to be just like you, better than you, and some people are just going to like you better.
Yes, and I love that you said that, because I think that's the heart of it. People ask me, well, how am I going to stand out? Well, you know what? Each one of us does what we do differently than the next person. And I think that if you own that, if you do what you do with authenticity, if you put your own unique, stamp on it, that is what people are going to identify with. Not if you're trying to be like everyone else who's already in your field.
Absolutely.
Right.
Well, what is it that you think gives somebody the credibility to be an authority?
I think that if you are passionate about a topic, you're already an authority. You already know more than most people. If you've studied it on your own, you've read books, you've implemented it yourself, that makes you an authority. And, I know a lot of people have this resistance to, well, I can't call myself an authority, but the fact is that if you've done that work, you have every right to call yourself an authority. And you know more than most other people, and therefore you have the ability to help people. Are there people out there who know more than you? Absolutely. No matter what you do in this lifetime, there will always be people who know more than you. But that's right. You don't have to have all the answers. That's the other beautiful thing about connecting with your audience and being honest. I don't have an answer to that question, but I can find out. That's how we do it.
It certainly makes it easier when we're coaching people to be in front of the computer.
Right.
Google, let me think about that answer for just 1 second. Type.
Yeah, for sure, but I think people worry about, not having all the answers and not feeling like they have as much experience as the next person. But, in most cases, you're going to know more than most people, and that's enough.
Well, I'm glad you said that, because I have noticed I've done, plenty of live speaking myself and live coaching calls with people, or, we do our live podcast. And I found that it has really helped and taken the pressure off when I tell myself, it doesn't matter if I know the answer to every question in the moment. And in fact, those times when I have had to just say, that's a good question. Let me think about that a bit and get back to you, has actually, oddly enough, given me more, I don't know if I'd say more credibility, but more trustability, more likability, because people go, oh, I know he's giving me the straight answers and he's okay with, I know he's not just going to feed me something because he feels like he has to. And I think people can sometimes tell when you're BSing them, or they know it's like, oh, okay, look, he's willing to say, where his limitations are, but he's also willing to go to bat and figure it out for me and come back with a good answer. And I guess it just makes you more human and hence more knowable, more likable, more like the people who you are. Because if you just come across as this superhuman computer that has instant reference to everything, then they're like, okay, great, you're a go-to person, but I'm never going to be able to aspire to be like you, so why do I care?
Right.
You're unattainable, I guess.
You're unattainable, and you're also the hero when you come back with the answer.
With the answer,
by the way, because most people won't follow up. So, yeah.
Right. Okay, so let's say that somebody does have a passion and they're, considering, so it's something that maybe as a hobby for a few years they've practiced, or maybe it's even something as an employee they've practiced and now they're considering going into business for themselves and drawing from that knowledge. So they have some experience with this thing. They've never thought of themselves as, say, an expert or a go-to person, maybe because they've never, published content or spoken live. I mean, sure, people maybe have come to them and asked them for advice here and there and gotten value from them. If they're at that point of going, okay, so maybe I do have something to draw from and put myself out there as an expert, what are those first steps, maybe 2 or 3 things to do so that A, the marketplace starts seeing you as an expert, and B, you start seeing yourself as an expert?
I would start with a blog. These days I'm such an advocate of blogging. As you guys well know, it's a great way to get traffic and engage with your audience and build an audience. And I think that's a perfect starting point. Start a blog, start sharing about your topic of interest. And then the social media thing, it goes hand in hand with that. And I'm still seeing so much resistance to social media. It takes too much time. I don't know how to do it. It's not going away. It is a reality of doing business today. And if you want to establish yourself as an authority in your field, your blog is that foundation, and your social media, whether it's Twitter or Facebook or Google Plus or Pinterest, that's where you get to further build that audience. And I think those 2 things are so important. And of course, I think the ultimate way to establish your authority is to write a book. But, that's not always everybody's first starting point, but it's something to certainly put on your list of goals.
Well, the book thing certainly helped you there, Jay, didn't it, with the podcasting?
Well, absolutely, yeah. I mean, when I had that opportunity, but the funny thing is it's kind of like this interesting chicken or egg thing. People think like, oh, well, of course you're not going to be, I can't be seen as an expert until I've written a book or until I've been on the news or whatever. But the funny thing is that book never would have come about as an opportunity had I not first put myself out there just through a blog and a site, putting out, credible and useful information first. So it's almost like, well, you just got to take that first step of saying, here's my shingle, I'm an expert, and then those other quote-unquote typical expert opportunities and credibility builders then follow after the fact. Whereas I think people feel like, well, I can't be an expert until the book opportunity drops in my lap or until, but really it's just taking that first step yourself, I think. I mean, I don't know, with your experience, Stephanie, or with your clients that you've worked with, what has been that experience of kind of the chicken or the egg, what comes first in those opportunities?
I think you're so right. Well, and then you throw self-publishing into the mix, and you can really make things happen quickly. I'm up to 8 books. I've written 8 books now, but I started by self-publishing a business startup book. And at the time, I owned a bookstore in Sacramento. Who was I to be writing a business startup book?
Yeah.
But I had quit my corporate job. I had opened a 2,800 square foot bookstore, and I wanted to write the book I wanted to read. Well, I did not anticipate that a self-published book like that was going to bring me media interviews and speaking engagements and requests for consulting. So like you, it kind of took on a whole life of its own. And from there, I actually went on and landed several traditional publishing contracts with Wiley and Career Press and so on and so forth. And so I think the foundation, too, is the blog and the book, because my blog as well, when you tie that together with the book, it's a great package. That's how I've been interviewed for Australia's version of the Today Show and countless media outlets. It's how I became a blogger for Forbes. They found my blog. They saw my books. So these things really do work together. And if you don't want to wait for a book deal to land in your lap, don't. Go out and produce a high-quality book on your own. It is just as effective these days.
Yeah, the game really has changed. I mean, it's exciting to know that even in just the last decade, the tools and opportunities and channels have become so accessible, so affordable, that, for better or worse, anybody can really stand up and use these tools. And so, why not you? If you don't, somebody else is. And so if you feel like you have value, it's almost like you owe it to yourself and the world, the marketplace, that slice of audience that's out there waiting for you to step up and use these tools that are readily available. And it's so exciting. I've seen time and time again, like a student of ours go from getting ideas, starting something as simple as a Twitter feed, just talking about their passion. And next thing you know, that Twitter feed rolls into having a blog, and that blog rolls into making an ebook, and that ebook rolls into, now they're invited to speak at a conference, and that also rolls into now they're landing big interviews for their own blog and show, and now they're being invited to be published in the industry magazine, and now they're being invited abroad to go and speak on the topic. One of the best business trips I ever had was being asked to go to Antigua and talk about podcasting to budding authors in the Caribbean. That would have never happened had I not just made that first step of publishing on something online of here's how to podcast, and it's such an exciting process to have gone through and see other people go through as well. The game has changed, so it's just sitting there waiting for you, it feels like.
Exactly. That's really cool.
Well, let's take a couple of steps back and say, what about a person who has an interest and a passion but has little to no experience or even little knowledge yet on the subject? Can they be an expert? And, what should they do first?
Well, I think you have to build your expertise, and I think that applies no matter if you're new and just wanting to get started or you've been doing what you do for 20 years, because I think that we should always all be moving forward with our careers, right? That means studying your industry, reading the books and the blogs and the news that help you stay on top of what it is that you do, or get some hands-on experience. I think back to when I opened that bookstore, I had zero experience. I was a Silicon Valley salesperson. I sold $4 million of software a year. I never owned a bookstore. And so I started reaching out to bookstore owners. The internet is a wonderful thing. I emailed bookstore owners all over the country and got tons of advice back. And I read every book I could get my hands on the topic. These are the ways you start to learn. And ironically, though I sold that store several years later, I ultimately wrote a book about how to start and run a used bookstore and became an authority without even really trying. It's not a niche I really focus on, but it's a book that continues to sell really well because there's not a lot of competition. So you can start from anywhere. It's just being self-motivated,
Absolutely. Well, hey, Jay, I was going to ask you, what's that quote? There was some quote that we say when we talk about the expert thing where it's like, it just takes 3 books, to get started. And like, at what point do you consider an expert? Do you remember what I'm talking about?
Right. It's like all you need is a library card and, go pick up 3 books on the topic, and you look through the table of contents and read through those and assimilate. It all starts by just, I guess, gathering and assimilating the data from other people. You can go, or you could similarly go and interview 3 experts, people that you see as experts in that field, and kind of aggregate their data. That's always a great place to start, I find, as well, is just being, if nothing else, an aggregator at first. And, it's actually pretty amazing how readily experts are willing to give you their time if you just email them or call them and go, hey, can we chat? And I want to be an expert on cooking. Okay, well, I'm going to go find 5 cooks to go and interview and start learning about this and at least become a filter of value for people. And then kind of by default, kind of like you were saying, Stephanie, all of a sudden you'll find, oh my gosh, now I am an expert on running an independent bookstore because I've talked to these people long enough now that, that puts me in a position of expertise. And I've seen people leverage that approach extremely effectively many times.
Absolutely.
Okay, so at what point, when do you get to decide you're an expert? Like, we always joke about that and go, there's no magic wand. We would like to sell that and go, okay, you read your 3 books, you read 5 blog posts, interview somebody, boom, you're an expert. Like, what is the point where you go, okay, you can consider yourself an expert?
Well, I think part of it is claiming it. I think you need to feel like you've earned it to a point, I know a client, she's a life coach, and she actually got her certification and all of those things, but it took her a good year before she really owned that as a career. So I think part of it is what feels right to you, what feels authentic to you, and if people start calling you that, then that's a good sign you're there, right?
Yeah, that first question that comes in that's basically acting like you're the expert. Hey, how do you do this? You're like, well, they're asking me. This is awesome.
Exactly.
Right. Yeah, I think it's kind of, and again, it's just about taking that, first step, the chicken or the egg thing. But I like to say, we've kind of started saying, in addition to, or even instead of sometimes, it's like, if it feels too daunting to think of yourself as an expert, just think of yourself as a person of value, somebody who just wants to deliver value to other people. You don't have to be dishonest about how much you know. You don't have to be dishonest about results that you've had. Even if you're doing nothing else but going out and finding, the 10 best sources and aggregating, again, to repeat myself on that, you're still delivering value to people. So many people out there don't have the time or desire to go out and do that. And so if you're doing that, now you've delivered them value. And just the absolute truth is the moment you start delivering value to someone, now all of a sudden they start thinking of you as, oh, that's a go-to source for me. They helped me out. They sent me this article I needed. Oh, they found, the top 10 points from the top 10 experts and put them together in a useful format. And then, then at that point, your confidence starts building bit by bit. Or I think another recommendation that I would say is just go and get your first client, if nothing else. And that client doesn't even have to pay you. Just like, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a colleague, maybe it's, whoever, just like bring that person in and go, okay, we're going to get some results with you because I've got some ideas to apply. I'm kind of learning this as I go too. But the moment you have results, you got something to share. You've got something to put out there. Again, value leads to people seeing you as expertise, I guess is another way I like to look at it.
And I totally agree with that. I think my position is always, how can I be a resource for my target audience? So, your suggestions to aggregate information from other sources is the perfect place to start, or put together a list of 10 tips that you put in a booklet and you hand out at events instead of a brochure. I hate brochures. Give people something that they actually want to keep, not recycle, So, the more information you can share, even if you're pulling it from other sources, still makes you become the resource that shared that information.
Yeah, absolutely. So what's a good way then? Okay, so is the blog, you say, is a great first step for just kind of hanging out a shingle of, hey, I want to deliver value to the marketplace, but clearly at some point people want to. The recognition is nice, but it only lasts so long. At some point, people want to make money as an expert and leverage that value into money. So at what point do you deserve, or are you ready to make money as an expert?
I think you're ready to make money the day you decide you're an expert, or the day somebody tells you you're an expert and invites you to a paid speaking gig, or I think we all have every right to earn money, and you might come out of the gate with an ebook that you wrote that you're going to sell, and market through a web page on your site. So I don't think you need to put limitations on yourself. If you feel driven to produce something that for money, and you feel confident in your content, then by all means, you don't need to wait any certain period of time to do that.
Now, so you start making money right away. Let's say somebody goes, okay, so I've had my blog up for a couple months. People are starting to pay attention. Maybe I'll put an ebook out there. And, clearly if one person buys that, you've got a client and you just made money. I mean, it's kind of that adage of if you've made $1, you can call yourself a pro now because you made some money doing it. Do you have kind of an expert funnel or money map that you usually outline, whether in your books or to your clients of, usually the first step, obviously the blog, but then when it comes to making money, well, I usually recommend an ebook first and then maybe self-publishing and then making money through speaking. Like, is there a particular map that you usually see people follow or that's most effective for leveraging, making $1 into making 100 into making 1,000 and then also 6 figures a year from being an expert?
Yeah, that's such a great question. The general product funnel starts with a low dollar item, a book or an ebook, and you kind of work your way up because you don't want to come out of a gate trying to sell somebody a $2,000 service package if they don't have any experience with you. So, but the path is going to be different for everyone, and it's going to be different depending on what your goals are. If your goals are to be a 6-figure speaker, your path is going to be very different because selling ebooks is probably not going to get you there. being a six-figure speaker means you're getting in with speakers bureaus and you're targeting big companies that have big budgets versus somebody who maybe wants to be a consultant or a website advisor. An ebook might be a great entry point for you. And in fact, I'd argue that you might want to just give it away for free because that's how you get people's attention. So I think it will vary, but in most cases, you want to have a variety of offerings so that you can capture clients that are maybe thinking about spending the $1,000 with you, but they're going to start with a $25 book or, a $30 audio collection. There's just so many opportunities you can tap into.
All right, so I want to just to finish up, go back to something you said about social media, because you said that's largely underutilized. People aren't, shying. They're shying away from it for whatever reason. Sometimes they think it's because it's a fad. They might be thinking because it's too much work. So if somebody goes, okay, I want to leverage social media to brand myself as an expert in the marketplace, and I'm taking a look at the myriad things I could start with, and I'm overwhelmed because of the social media landscape and the fact it keeps exponentially, it's like, oh, now there's Pinterest,
right.
And what's the best starting place? What's that first step into social media for hanging your shingle in the social media sphere as an expert?
Well, I've said for several years, if you're just getting started and it makes you a little nervous, start on Facebook. But, it's getting harder and harder to promote a business on Facebook with the way that they've changed so many things. I'm personally a huge fan of Twitter. And if you're going to be a content creator, if you're going to write blog posts and share tips and things like that, Twitter is a great place to do that and a great place to stand out for the great content that you produce and share. So, those would be my two suggestions. If you're a content producer and you're really planning to push out a lot of information, I'd go with Twitter. If you're still a little nervous, you're trying to figure out what your audience is, a Facebook fan page, a business page, is a good starting point to get comfortable in social media. And, but a month from now, there may be another site we're all talking about. That we've got Google Plus we have to worry about now. There's so many things. But Facebook or Twitter are a good starting point.
Yeah, I mean, it's undeniable the power of Facebook for sure, but Twitter is the thing that seems like the most immediately accessible and immediately able to see results from. So I'm glad to hear you confirm that as well. I like that answer. Whatever the niche, it seems like there are people on Twitter somewhere talking about it. And it may not be your entire market is on Twitter talking about it, but at least some slice of your market is on, and they're there openly. You can go search what people are saying and find 10 people today that are talking about, macrame is one of the niches we always like to throw out there as a funny example. But when, scuba diving, tennis, martial arts, whatever the case may be. So, yeah, very cool. Well, any final words of advice on becoming an expert, the importance of it, or how to do so before we, have you share some resources that you have on the matter?
I guess I would just say to not be so hard on yourself. I think we're all our own worst critics, and in the world of entrepreneurship, sometimes you just have to shoot the gun off and keep going. And, many times we're shooting from the hip, and that's okay. As long as you feel like you're doing the work to get you there and that you're advancing and you're learning and you're serving your audience, which is the most important thing in the whole picture, then, by all means, go forward and prosper. I met a woman at a publishing conference this weekend who's a dietitian, and she writes cookbooks for specific illnesses, like if you have arthritis or allergies or all these,
nice.
Wonderful little niches. She sold on one title alone over 100,000 books, $25 each, and that's just one of her 20 titles. So find your niche and own it. I just love that stuff.
Go for it.
Yeah, it's one of those things that this expert thing, I remember that when I finally went, oh, hey, I am an expert, and I don't have to define expert in the same way as I used to. It's not the end point. I'm an expert now. That's it. Expert is just a new journey. you start with a certain amount of knowledge as an expert, and then you keep gaining. It's not like you have to be done, like as if you've got a PhD, now you're an expert. It's like, well, I have some knowledge, and now I'm an expert. And even when I have more knowledge, I'm still just going to be the expert. So, you know what I mean? There's a progression even once you take that. It doesn't have to be the end point. It's really only the beginning.
Completely. I love that. Yeah.
Well, I guess if anybody's listening to this, not that you need it at all, but if it helps, the three of us now give you permission to go forth and be an expert. If you need
the magic wand.
If you need that permission from someone, we'll give it to you right now. Just take that first step, and as Stephanie says, go forth and prosper with your passion, your desire. Be a person of value, and good things will come absolutely. So, Stephanie, as a person of value who helps people become a recognized expert in their field, how can people find more value from you and more about what you're doing?
Thank you. Yeah, I have a publishing business, authoritypublishing.com. We help people get their nonfiction books published. And also, I would love to invite your listeners to businessinfoguide, GUIDE.com. We post articles, guest articles from authorities in their field. We also feature interviews with entrepreneurs and authors, and you can go to the Contribute tab on the navigation and contribute information if you're looking for more ways to establish your authority. Getting seen on other websites is a great way to do that.
Awesome. Sounds good. Well, thanks again for your time, Stephanie, and we look forward to when we get to chat with you next.
Thank you for having me.
Bye.
All right, this breakthrough comes from one of our Academy students by the name of David Graham, who sent a message to us, and here's what he said. He said, I was doubting the Internet Business Mastery Academy Twitter method.
What?
But you doubting us? And I guess just for those who are wondering, one of our earlier modules is about how to get a following as fast as possible, and Twitter's one of the quickest ways we know of, and then to make money with them very, very quickly. It's all in that one magical module about fast money.
Well, even though I'm completely exasperated by he said he was doubting us, I hear there's a but coming.
That's right. You can tell in the tone. It's like, but... And here's what he says. But sure enough, it's come through. After a couple days of feeling like I'm spamming people and watching the number of followers go up and down, I'm starting to get it. After literally minutes of effort and a few hours of automated time, I've got Twitter people recommending my writings to their friends as expert opinion through Twitter, Facebook, blogs, email, and MySpace. Wow, even MySpace.
I didn't even know it still existed.
The far-reaching tendrils of your influence already reaching to MySpace. That's when you know you're really becoming an influencer online.
Yeah, when something that's almost dead is still getting
it for you.
Yeah.
He says, tons of personally engaged users reaching out to thousands of their followers and friends in hours. And this is just my first go at it. Mind officially blown, with a little smiley face. And that's from David Graham. So I'm glad to see we were able to turn you from a doubter into a believer there, David.
There you go.
And if you are curious as to the tool he's referring to that we teach about inside the Academy, you can find that at fastfollowing.com.
And remember, there's a live question and answer call each month for coaching members where you can ask us anything about starting and running your internet business. Not a coaching member yet? No problem. Just visit internetbusinessmastery.com/coaching to get the latest information about our coaching program.
It's time for the Internet Business Quick Tip.
So some people have taken notice, even though we've actually been doing this for probably a good year now, but this question has started coming up. People noticing that when they go to comment on our blog, there's a little checkbox there that says, would you like to also subscribe to our newsletter to get tips and new content sent to you? So, because it would follow to reason that somebody who is at the point of commenting and looking at that form is an engaged person. They're interested enough. They've stuck around the site. They most likely just read the content above, and now they're wanting to comment on that. So this is an interested and engaged person, a very valuable traffic prospect that's come to your site. So it's a great place to hit people up to get onto the email list, which is kind of one of those quintessential channels that we really want to engage people through. So there's been questions as to, well, how did you guys do that? How did you add that checkbox to your comments? And I think, Sterling, you were the first actually to suggest this. You found it on somebody else's blog. They were doing this, right?
Yeah, I was trying to see how many times can we hit them up to get on our list on one single page. And I think we're up to maybe 4. So you can do it on the right-hand side. there's a little box at the bottom of every blog post that says sign up. A pop-up comes up, and there's this button, this little plug-in.
Awesome. Well, if you'd like to do that on your own WordPress blog, there's a plugin that makes it all possible. Just search for the Action Comments plugin, Action Comments plugin, and that makes it easy to add that little checkbox in there. So that is our quick tip recommendation, a good list builder for your site.
If you'd like to get dozens of resources such as this one, you can find them in the Internet Business Mastery Academy, along with video tutorials showing you exactly how we use many of them. So to get your risk-free trial membership to the Academy, go to InternetBusinessMasteryAcademy.com.
You've been listening to the iconoclasts of the 9 to 5, Sterling and Jay. Sterling and Jay invite you to discover one of their most popular video programs ever, the Online Business Freedom Formula. Visit freevideogift.com right now to get instant access to this life-changing video series, pulled directly from the acclaimed Internet Business Mastery Academy membership community. Go now to freevideogift.com. Take control. Make more money. Start an internet business today.